Happy Sunday, parish orphans and retrogrades. A special weekend edition of Rules for Retrogrades was in order today, Sunday Synod Special, SSS, because on Friday we learned that we have begun the module at the Synod on Synodality. As I say we because it's all of us, right? Even though we're not invited there and information is clamped down tightly. The Synod on the feminist portion of this, female deacons, it's begun from Friday to Wednesday. They'll be working on it through the weekend. Whatever work they do, they're not sharing how much weekend work they're doing. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And remember, there's a lot of rhetoric. We're working on this, but generally, we don't want to get dragged down into the particulars, whether or not it's women priest or women deacon or no women in the ordination at all. That's not what's important. What's important is re-energizing, revitalizing all of these folks are saying. The dignity of female baptism. So they're being more specific, less specific. We're not talking about female diaconate. We are talking about female diaconate. But the consistent note is that for 2,000 years, females in the church, in the Roman Catholic Church, the one true faith, the faith that of all the worldviews, forget religions, worldviews, gave women the right. It's actually a necessity as an element of marriage to say yes or no to marriage. Their father can't make the decision for them. Their tribe can't make the decision for them. Their king can't make the decision for them. For 2,000 years, according to Francis and his cronies, women have not had dignity within the church. We're not talking about Islam. We're not talking about pagan women. We're talking about women in the church have had deficient dignity accorded to them. That is officially what they're saying. That we need to re-envision the dignity of female baptism. It's a good show, Parish Orphans and Retrogrades. And I'm going to play some questions posed by our friend Diane Montagna at the Synod. For some reason, we don't get to see the televised resposta by the abbot that she asked the question to, but I can read it to you. Part of it's just the information control in and out. The big question, I'm literally asking you guys this in the comment box. Why do you think they're playing the shell game at the Synod, October 2023, with the specificity of the treatment of the female diaconate? Why do you think they're going, let's deal with it specifically? Let's not get mired down in specifics. I'll read you the response to this question that Diane Montagna posed again. I'd like to do that right up front here. And then you can see the shell game that is being played in his answer. And I would ask you, once you hear Diane's question and the abbot's answer, why? How is this effective for them? I think I have an answer, but I'd like your guys' feedback. Before we get started, I'd remind you that you can support this show on Locals and Subscribestar. And if you do so now, you can join the Lord of the Rings reading group on Wednesdays. I'd also like to take a moment to point out you need to get out of your blue state. Americans, you need to get to a red state. Go to realestateforlife.org. Your state is your true republic and influences your day-to-day happiness much, much more than this continent called North America. There's a nation called America, the main part of North America. Your state does. My life changed significantly when I moved from California to Mississippi, and so did my family's. Go to realestateforlife.org. Finally, I'd urge you all to tune in to Trent Horn's channel next Wednesday at 6 CST. This is in 3 days. I will be debating a Protestant gentleman on Trent Horn's channel on the epistemic ground of Sola Scriptura. It's going to be a good one. Live debate, It's going to be good. Be there. Or be...
Not there.
A heretic. Be squared. Or be not there. All right, so let's just get into it. Diane Montaigne is asking great questions at the Synod. The Synod has gone on for a week and a half now. This is the week and a half mark. She does a really good job. She has been probative. She has, to the extent that it's within her power, not allowed them to get away with sophistry. And sometimes she's been silenced by Karens at the Synod. Other times she's been ignored. Other times she's asked a great probative question and we haven't gotten the response. In today's episode, what I'm going to play for you right now, momentito, is a great question where I will be able to read the response by the abbot whom she interrogated. You ready for that, Steph?
Yeah, let's play.
Which question? You have the second one.
I did have the second question.
Questa era la prima.
Questa è la prima.
Yes, the second.
See, so perhaps for Father Abbot, since you're a priest, we know that there are both bishops and laity at the Synod who are pushing for women's ordination. It's mentioned in the Instrumentum Laboris as a women's inclusion in the diaconate. Some say that the push for women deacons in the Synod is no different from the feminist push for women deacons in the Anglican Communion, which led to women priests and bishops. How is this not a step to further ordination? Thank you.
Thank you. This question. You have the second.
Excellent. So I'll repeat Ms. Montagne's excellent and incisive and probative question for Father Abbot. Some say the push for women deacons in the Synod is no different from the feminist push for women deacons in the Anglican Communion, which led to women priests and bishops. How is this not a step to further ordination? Here is the response given by the abbot, who Diane Montaigne says seemed to be a peaceful man and is part of Table 6. Remember the Circoli Minori? They're using this to divide and conquer. He's part of Table 6, a Italian language small group discussing the role of women. Friday, I think yesterday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. This is obviously the big goal of this Synod, is to create this excluded middle category, no longer excluded, between ordained women deacons and unordained women deacons, right? You can have unordained women deacons like Susanna and Joanna. You can't have ordained women deacons. I already told you what they're doing. They're going to create some middle class where it's ambiguous that really shoves up to de facto ordination. That's my strong guess. Diane just asked the question. Father Abbot Mauro Giuseppe Lapori, a Cistercian, said the following. On women's priesthood, what I see the Synod already avoiding, thanks be to God, is to confront issues by taking them out of context. Remember that he said that. Therefore, this topic is not dominant at all in the discussion, women priests, right? Because they're pretending that women deacons doesn't lead to women priests for the time being. What is important is the participation of women in the life of the church. Okay, I need to take a note or two here so that I don't forget. Context, thank you, participation. How can the baptismal dignity of women be recognized more? From what I see, until now, no one has spoken about women's priesthood. They have been talking about women's diaconate because the Instrumentum Laboris speaks about it. Okay. So you're admitting that they're talking about female deacons. Good. I mean, not good they're talking about it. Good we have that much clarity. But I think the important thing is not to confront this topic. if you'll pardon me using the phrase, in a journalistic way. No confrontation. He didn't stop there. No confrontation in a journo way. But by starting from a knowledge of what the church is, what the vocation of man and woman in the church is, what orders means. Those are huge questions. Okay? Humongous questions. I think, says Father Abbott, that we need to start from a knowledge of what the church is, what vocation of man and woman in the church is, what orders means. I think that the great temptation when it comes to discussing these topics is superficiality. To talk about it on the level of slogans or groups who are demanding this or that. Good. Sorry. I'll let you really drink this in as I write here. Because I read this earlier on my couch after church, and I had all these thoughts. I'm getting them ready for you now. I don't see this at the Synod. We're speaking at a deep level. So they are on our level at the Synod. There's no proof of that they're not being what he calls superficial, but he alleges it. You see what they're doing? It's really it's really crafty. I could say that I am in a small group that is talking about the role of women. I chose this group, this topic, because in my order, the monks and nuns belong to the same order. And also at the level of governance of the order, for example, the abbots and abbesses belong to the same general chapter without distinctions. Sometimes making a skeletal outline like this is to give yourself the key to unlocking what they're doing. No distinctions. Therefore, I thought I could bring an experience that this is positive. That is, that living the life of the church, someone this week said with both lungs, enriches the church. How this will take shape in facing certain more particular issues, I'm not the one to say. This is a very key moment in their lie. How it will take shape, who knows? Who knows? Not Father Abbott. No, I don't know as it takes shape facing more particular issues. I'm not the one to say that's above my pay grade. But I feel that everything will be confronted from the depth of an ecclesial and global awareness. Okay, that sounds deep, doesn't it? That doesn't sound superficial. That sounds ecclesial and global. And this is important because it's not so important that we think of certain demands. That's specific. You're being political. That's being political. But we need to think always of the true good of the church. Oh, that's global and ecclesial. I got it. Of our mission for humanity. Super global. So ecclesial. You see what they're doing. And the topic of women and their role in the church is fundamental for understanding this. Oh, it's fundamental for understanding this. But I can't say now what the work of the Synod will lead to. Who knows? Not Father Abbott. No way. No sirree, Bob. He said that yesterday. Wait, yes, today's the 15th, right? Okay, good.
Today's the 15th.
Today's 15th, so yesterday was the 14th. So they are, okay, that's the first official confirmation I have that they are doing Saturday work, which is just a side question I always have. Okay, let's go through the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 moments of what Father Abbott told Mrs. Montagna, in his response to her question. You know what? Can we play her question one more time, or should I just read it? I can just read it if it's hard.
I could try to find it again. Just a second. Okay, here we go. Are you ready?
This is the Table 6 master, Father Abbott. Yeah, here we go. One more time, I'm gonna run you through his answer.
This question, you have
Listen to Diane's question.
Sorry. Here we go.
Good question.
Questa era tutta la prima. Questa era la prima.
Questa è la prima.
Yes, the second.
See, so and perhaps for Father Abbot, since you're a priest, we know that there are both bishops and laity at the Synod who are pushing for women's ordination. It's mentioned in the Instrumentum Laboris as a women's inclusion in the diaconate. Some say that the push for women deacons in the Synod is no different from the feminist push for women deacons in the Anglican Communion, which led to women priests and bishops. How is this not a step to further ordination? Thank you.
Thank you. First question. You have the second one.
Okay, so very good, very good. I want to show you this picture of table 6 discussed by Ed Penton in a second. It's just the next tweet up. Sorry, Steffi. I knew you were trying to go down.
On your.
Yeah, on my Twitter, as I give the answer, as I go through Father Abbott's answer, yeah, there it is. That picture there. There he is, Father Abbott. He is so, man, it's above his pay grade. He can't give the answer to this question. It's such a load of crap. Now, he goes through a 9-part answer. And he says, look, you're asking a simple question, Miss Montagna. Why, if the way to women deacons in the Roman Catholic Church is closed, are we pursuing it? Why are we pursuing it? If it's not an open path, why are we pursuing it openly as a path? Well, we need to do it in context. What I see the Synod avoiding is confronting issues by taking them out of the context. So you guys can't see what's going on. This is part 1 of his answer. You guys don't see what's going on, but I'm making up this category for what would constitute a good answer. A good answer is we're dealing with this very difficult issue in context. The way you journalists like Miss Montagna are asking it is inherently journalistic, and by being inherently journalistic, you mean out of context. You're taking it out of context. And what he means by that is a simple answer to the question, can women be deacons? Which has been given by all the popes with one voice for 2,000 years plus in the church. A simple answer is to decontextualize it. And he said, what we are doing so well at this secret meeting where I can give it high marks. We're doing this so well at not decontextualizing. I give it an A++. How do I prove it? Well, you don't get to see. Clever, right? In other words, he's saying that they at the Synod on Synodality, in these closed-door meetings, are dealing with a simple yes-no question in a super deep way. Think of Michael Scott on The Office. They ask him a simple question that he doesn't know the answer to. This is like all of the first 4 seasons. They ask him a question he doesn't know the answer to that's simple, yes or no, binary. He should know it because he's the manager of Dunder Mifflin. He either doesn't know it or doesn't want to give the simple answer because he doesn't like what the simple answer is. So he says, oh, it's so much deeper than that. And we get to laugh at him because we see Michael writhe and wriggle under the scrutiny of the camera. We don't get to watch that at the Synod. Instead, we have these sophists like Father Abbott saying, trust me, we're not decontextualizing it. Then he goes on to say the following, we're not taking it out of context, therefore this topic is not dominant in the discussion. But what is important is participation of women in the church. So he's admitting that the question of the female diaconate, I mean, I know this is obvious, but let's go through it slowly. What he's just admitted is the question of the female diaconate, I'm going to walk you through this, is relevant to female participation in the church. And he specifically says, I want you to hear this part. How can the baptismal dignity of women be recognized more? So they need to participate more, and that means there needs to be something more of female deacons. So that's point number 3. How do we give them more dignity? Well, the answer is lodged in part 2. We give the female baptism, not that they have a separate baptism, just because women are so different from men. They're not meant to be out there in politics, voting, doing things outside the family, leading, being patriarchs, clerical or household patriarchs. They're just totally different. Men and women are so different, which is what gives us complementarity. This view of the church for 1900 years, that women are totally different from men, has evidently taken away their dignity, and even the dignity of their baptism, which enables them to go to heaven. Can you imagine what this absolute Jacobin is saying? What's he really saying? He's saying that their baptism, which is their golden ticket to heaven, isn't enough because they haven't participated enough, and the heading of participation in this synod is that women are going to participate more at some level by doing something closer to having ordained female deacons. Okay, so that's points 1, 2, and 3. We're dealing with more context than you guys ever have or any pope ever has. Listen to the hubris. More context than Jesus had, because he didn't have any ordained female deacons. More context than any of the saint popes, 100 or so saint popes in the history of the church had. More than any of the greatest heroes to ever walk the earth, heroes in the church, have ever had. We at this little synod, you can't prove it. It's not a falsifiable claim. This means more participation, which means we're going to do something like female deacons. It means more dignity for women. Women have been undignified thus far because of not participating, because of not being ordained. Did you want to say something after point 3 here?
Well, somebody said something in chat earlier that was great, and they said if Christ wanted women to be deacons, why didn't he pick the greatest woman that has ever lived, his own mother?
Right.
The Queen of Heaven.
Right.
He didn't even ask her to do something like that.
Right. I mean, this takes me back to a point I tweeted about a long time ago. It got ratioed, which usually means it's one of my best tweets I've ever done.
So true.
Got ratioed by feminist Catholics. I said, Mary is the greatest woman ever, and she did not evangelize. And then people took it out of context and they said, oh, so there's no Marian apparitions? Those are not evangelizations, right? That's always her appearing privately to 1 or 2, maybe 3 little seers who are already deeply devoted to her. That's not evangelizing. And then usually it's a man. Sometimes that is a woman who goes to her bishop, but it's always the patriarchy of the church spreads the message. It's never Mary. Mary stayed home. She was not sent out 2 by 2. So that is you. And that was a bunch of trads that ratioed that tweet, wanting more participation for women. Trads get mad when you remind them Joan of Arc never fought in a battle. Of course not. She would have been destroyed. She would have been clobbered by the weakest man on the battlefield the instant she set foot. No, St. Joan of Arc was used like a propaganda figure. She's the inspiration for Hunger Games chick, right? And they made her do a little bit of fighting. Joan of Arc did none. But that chick was kind of just a propaganda symbol. There's no dignity in the church thus far, guys like Father Abbott say, because no participation, because the church thus far, including Christ himself, has been decontextualizing women. Christ dealt with women like a journalist. And by that, yes means yes, no means no. Jesus also happened to say that. And this is superficial. So this is point 4. He returns to this notion of we are not confronting this issue, this difficult issue. Bullshit. Can women be deacons? Hell no. It's that difficult. But he's making it bigger a la Michael Scott. He's saying, we're not going to confront this incredibly complex, metaphysically abstruse question, which it's not, in journalistic crass yes means yes, no means no terms, which are also the terms I guess Jesus was journalistic because he said, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. That's point 4. That way, now he's just repeating points. Point 5, he says, that way lies superficiality. That way lies mere sloganeering. So because a proposition is reducible to a short line or a half line, which you could call a slogan, in the Roman Catholic Church, no female deacons, that's a slogan. That's cheap. That's superficial. You know? We don't like murderers in the Catholic Church. You're sloganeering. Murder's bad. Right? That's superficial. We love murders. Murder's great. Is what Father Abbott's saying here. Point 6, he repeats. He's hitting you over the head with it. See how many times he repeats it? I didn't even notice it when I read his answer until I started lining out what the different lines mean. He repeats, now, in like the 4th way, we are operating at a deep level at the Synod. He said it 4 different ways. He said they're not decontextualizing. They're according more dignity. They're not confronting the question in journalistic terms, crass terms, and they're not sloganeering. That's really the 5th way he said it. We're not superficial, we're deep. And by the way, we know you can't see this. Just take our word. It's not so much that we care what the final answer is. It's about the journey, man. That's what they're saying. Really? That's not what Cardinal Walter Brandmuller thinks. That's not what Cardinal Casper thinks on the opposite end. That's not what the Sankt Gallen thinks. Both the Sankt Gallen Mafia, and, who cooked this all up, who give Francis his marching orders, and the good guys, the opponents of the Sankt Gallen Mafia, they agree about one thing. That this is not a deep issue at all to the liberals, to the Sankt Gallen guys. It is a yes-no issue. The Sankt Gallen guys are simply saying, in the most superficial expression possible, it's a superficial issue. Can women be deacons? They're saying the church's superficial, binary, easy, ready-made answer has been no. We want to flip that superficial, quick, rough and ready answer to being yes. That's all they want. They've said it. I've shown you the documents. Francis has said it. Francis said it at the end of the Amazon Synod. When they're being honest, they'll admit it. Remember that clip I played, I read you, Francis, to our Archbishop Bruno Forte? We can't talk about this directly. He was saying, we have to lie. We have to say no and then do yes at the last minute. That's not the direct quote, but that's what he said. And then Forte shared that, and then Francis essentially decommissioned him, took him out of action for sharing that. So it's a deep level at the Synod, he says another time. He said, before the church has been so bad, the way Jesus set up the church, the way St. Peter set up the church was bad. Because they did so without, they did so with distinctions between men and women. I mean, this is literally just, I'm not reading directly, it's a paraphrase. He says, I'm good for table 6. Remember, all of the Circuli Minori are not all dealing with each of the issues. Table 6 is dealing with this issue and a few others, but they're not having the Africans dealing with this, I'm guessing. Here's what he says. I'm especially good for this group. I chose this group, this topic, because in my order, my lived experience, I'm equipped to do it. We have a basically dysphoric order, he's saying. He doesn't use that word. The monks and nuns in my order belong to the same order. And also at the level of governance of the order, for example, the abbots and abbesses belong to the same general chapter without distinctions. So what he's really saying is Jesus, St. Peter, and all of the popes since then have been sexist. They have believed that there are distinctions between men and women. Father Abbot is saying his order has had their number pulled by this new pope. The time has become ripe. The Hegelian phenomenology of Geist has turned the cards of history in such a way that now the card that's come up is there aren't distinctions between men and women. An abbot and an abbess, what's the difference? I guess a penis. But nothing ergonomically, nothing intelligibly, nothing functionally in terms of the life of the world and the life of the church and the ergon or even the telos of that abbot and abbess. A penis separates them. Sorry, it is the logic of that demonic ideology. But that's not meaningful, right? That's all. It's a meaningless private part. And there is no real formal distinction between men and women. This is also Gnosticism, because in the material, you always have the formal. So the mere difference between male private parts and women private parts, that gives you a world of formal distinction. It's not just flesh. So he wants no distinctions, and he's good because they're dysphoric. His order, and I'm guessing everyone, do we still have that table 6 up? Everyone at that 6th table, Ed Penton shows us that picture. They're the men for the moment and the women for the moment because they are dysphoric, because they don't make distinctions between men and women. Men lead, men make decisions, women follow. Women should follow men's decisions, whether in the church or the home or the outside world of the polis. That's been the view of nature and the church and all of the Western religions, really all religions. But they're remaking religion now in the image of humankind. They are the Luciferians. They are the folks who have infiltrated the church. They are, I think, Illuminists. Go read Father Elijah. The time is ripe, as Hegel said, as he danced around the freedom tree. The time is ripe. History witnesses a morphology, a phenomenology of Geist, human spirit, for whom contradiction does not mean true negation of propositions. Contradiction, a position and its antithesis, will blend together in a synthesis. That's Hegelianism applied to history by these Illuminists inside the church. So yes, for 2,000 years we didn't have women deacons. Yes, now there's a lot of broads in the church saying we want to be deacons, and no, Francis isn't opposing that. So isn't there opposition between the past and the present? Yes, but it's a good synthetic opposition out of which can be subsumed a third part. The principle of non-contradiction, that's an old thing. We in the church don't look at that the way they did before the philosophy of G.W.F. Hegel. This is why process theology is straight from the devil. Process philosophy is straight from the devil. They admit the contradiction, but they just say it's a thesis with an antithesis and a synthesis. Position, negation, but a new position grows out of it. How will it, now he starts with the how will it take shape? I don't know. That's above my pay grade. But you have to address this very simple question. Can a man have a baby? Well, we need to give an ecclesiastical and a global answer. No, it's a particular answer. No, a man can't have a baby. Can a woman be a deacon? No, a woman can't be a deacon. You can't get global about that answer. You can give a particular answer and then globalize it. This man cannot have a baby. This woman cannot be a deacon. Therefore, all men, since it's an essential property, cannot have a baby. All women cannot be deacons. We can globalize a particular. But, okay, so here's what I ask you guys. Please leave your comments live. Why does he repeat? Why does everyone at the Synod keep repeating this line? How it will take shape, that's above my pay grade. He said it 3 different ways. He kept saying, look, all we're doing, let me read you. I can't say now, last line of his answer, I can't say now what the work of the Synod will lead to. Man, it'll be interesting. He says it another way. It's not so important that we think of the certain demands or the particulars, But that we think always of the true good of the church, her mission for humanity, global stuff. Where else does he say it? I'm not the one to say. Listen to all this language. Why is he doing that? Why is he doing that? Spit your answers at the live chat. Why is it so important to the incrementalism of Pope Francis, this heretic pope? Jim Caviezel, sweet little Jim Caviezel, recently called him a Rothschild pope. Did you know that? Jim Caviezel, sweet little Jim. You expect something like that from myself, but sweet Jim Caviezel called Pope Francis a Rothschild pope. I wonder, there's a lot there. Why did this Rothschild heretic pope make it central to his program in 2014-2015 when he was going to commit the heresy of communion for the divorced and civilly remarried? Now it's a fait accompli. Why in the 2019 and 22-23 synods, because I will lump in the Amazon synod here, did he make saying, we're going to kick this to above our pay grade, but we're going to talk about it for 3.5 weeks? Women deacons. Why did he make that such an important talking point? You have to understand, he told them what talking points to say. This is how world media works. France, it's not anything like a dialogic, extemporaneous discussion that works from the ground up. This is top down. He's telling them, if you get asked about this, say, hey, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it in a really deep way, a deeper way than Christ himself could talk about. We're gonna be way smarter and way deeper than Jesus, way deeper than St. Peter or St. Paul in the Bible. Remember, Francis published that preface to the Jerome's Bible, and he said it's wrong to read certain parts of the Bible on women. He's deeper. He's better. Francis is a better Christian than Jesus. Why? Well, here's my answer. If you guys want to throw some answers at me, I'm interested in that. But my answer is the following. It's very important to do something called revelation of the method for these people. It's very important if a kid's trying to stay up past his bedtime. Let's say he's in a strict family, and he's like, okay, I have to go to bed at 9. This movie that I want to see and I know my parents will want to see, Fellowship of the Ring, goes from 7 to 10. And everyone in my family loves this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reveal the method a little bit. I'm going to say, hey, Mom, Dad, wouldn't it be great to watch Fellowship? Yeah, that would be great. We don't own it. Oh, and let's say he knows it's going to be playing tonight, Sunday night from 7 to 10. Oh, it's on. Good news, right? All of this, you have to show the people in real time that you're trying to incrementally overpower, dupe slowly. Oh, look at this. Isn't that great? Why don't we watch that? And then Mom and Dad will go, yeah, cool. That's something to do tonight. We'll have dinner a little early. Then you start hardwiring it into the plans. Okay, cool. What should we get for dinner early tonight? I mean, it's always suspicious of your 10-year-olds doing this, right? But cool. Okay, we'll just order some pizzas. Now it's getting wormed into the structure of the day. We'll get some pizzas a little early, or better yet, we'll just eat and watch. Okay, cool. Now it's part of what we're doing. 7 to 10. And then the mom says, oh, okay, well, what time does the movie begin? And this is the moment of truth to see if all of those machinations by our 10-year-old boy who wants to stay up late worked. It starts at 10. And then the mom might go, she's already bought in a lot. The dad's bought in a lot. But he'll say, it's a long movie. Isn't that a 3-hour movie? Isn't Junior's bedtime at 9? 7 and 9. Half the time as a parent, you guys know the deal. You're just like, whatever. I mean, we're not strict on bedtime anyway, but I know a lot of people who are. You go, yeah, whatever. It's a good movie. We don't own it. And you just don't care. But where it's really important to hold the line, like what's going on at the Synod, you just made it difficult for a line holder to hold the line because everyone's already purchased into the structure of their day, the structure of their thought, the way that they're conceiving of the way that things are going to go. They've already bought into several of the premises, you see? So that's why they're like, look, all we're going to do is put this out there that we're super deep. We're having these super deep conversations. Oh my gosh, you guys, it's so good. Here at table 6, we are really baking. We're really cooking. And you can't see it, but they're like the deepest conversations I think any old human ever had on the USA or whatever, the globe. You can't see them, but they're so good. They're so much, we're being so much deeper than Jesus. Oh my gosh, you guys. And you just have to take my word for it. And man, so doesn't this sound good? Isn't everyone interested in hearing what we're talking about? Yeah, cool. Oh, the thing is, like, now, don't get caught up in particulars. When Diane says, well, what are you talking about? Who's favoring what? Oh, you're just being a journalist. No, we're talking so far above that level. We even forgot that this is ultimately a yes-no question, which is bullshit. It's a political lobby. That's all it is. It's political lobbying and how it works. They're not talking about anything deep. All they're talking about, besides women deacons, is how to trick everyone into accepting women deacons. And they know that it works, and you ought to know it works because it worked on you with the synods on the family 2014-2015. Most knowledgeable Catholics I even talked to didn't know that this was clarified before 2 Saturdays ago. This was clarified before, they re-clarified it in a dubia, but it was clarified September of 2016. Incrementalism is used because it works, my friend. And remember what synods are. The way they work is there's no authority here. They don't have to talk if they want to get a leftist goal achieved. They don't have to talk decisively about it. All they have to do is revelation of the method. Hey, here's what we're kind of talking about, but we're being super oblique. We're just talking about it from 30,000 feet above the earth. It doesn't matter anyway. They could say, we want to do female deacons. And if you had a good pope, if 99% of everyone at the synod voted, let's have female deacons, but you had Pius X, he's going to come in like the Terminator, like T-1000, and terminate this thing with the sawed-off shotgun. Yeah, let me find the concept of the proposition of the female diaconate and blow a hole like this through its heart, like T-1000 does. It's all of this authority, the synodal authority, rests with the Pope. So the whole point of saying we're going to kick this above our pay grade is because Pope Francis told them to say that, and the Sankt Gallen Mafia told them to say that. We know because this is what they're doing in the 2014 and 2015 synods. Say the right things, say we're talking about it deeply, and then kick it back to us. We'll maximize impact when we finally reveal, yes. Here's that moment where we tell them we are doing female deacons now. They jerked everyone around for years, 2014, 2015, even early 2016, even after Amoris Laetitia came out. The exhortation itself continued to jerk people around until September, 6 months later of that year, when they're like, yeah. And that they just did quietly, clearly. Pope Francis will be clear eventually. But when he's clear, he'll be quiet. When Pope Francis is loud, that means he's going to be oblique. I'm telling you, I see through this stuff so well now, after studying Francis for all this time, studying the way the old liar works. I'm telling you, I know how it works. So they'll be talking about this tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday. They take a vote at the end. Diane asked a question also, will the vote at the end just be, is the final report an accurate reflection of what you talked about, or will it be something procedurally more substantive? I think their answer to that was oblique. But the vote doesn't really matter because there's no magisterial authority in a synod. Whatever their answer was. Here's an EWTN Vatican tweet from a couple hours ago. The first woman to preside over Synod of Bishops, she looks like Dorothy Zbornak, described the experience of sitting with Pope Francis at the head table as a gift and a grace. I literally thought it said a grift and a grace. And a sign of things to come in the Catholic Church. Okay. Speaking at a press briefing today, and this was from yesterday, sorry. They tweeted it today, but the article's from yesterday. Sister Maria de los Dolores Valencia Gomez, a sister of St. Joseph, described the participation of women in the ongoing Synod on Synodality as setting the stage for future changes. Does that sound like what I just described? Does it sound exactly like what I just described? Incrementalism, setting the stage for future changes. The October 4th to 29th Synod on Synodality is an assembly meant to advise Pope Francis on how the Catholic Church can more fully incorporate all of its members. Again, they're being relatively clear with. The Church, as set up by Jesus, has been deficient for 2 millennia. We, the liberals, are here to rescue it from Jesus and from St. Peter. Deo gratias, right? The assembly includes 54 women among its 365 delegates. Number of the days of the year, relevant maybe. 54 women. Can you imagine what a train wreck this thing is? If you have 365 delegates and 54 of them are women with a voting voice, it's automatic a fail, right?
You have 7 girls in your household, and it's chaos.
It's chaos. And they're sweet, and they're well-trained, but it's total chaos. 54 women, can you imagine what fresh hell they just unleashed from a can at this thing? It's the first time women have ever voted in a synod of bishops. Gomez led the Synod on Synodality assembly yesterday morning in her capacity as one of Pope Francis's 10 president delegates. She described the experience of sitting with the Pope as a symbol of this opening, the wish that the Church has for something that places us all at the same level. It's dysphoric. Look, everyone's saying it now. My buddy Michael Knowles on Daily Wire is saying it really regularly. My friend Jason Whitlock says it. I've heard him say it at least once. Page 4, Case for Patriarchy. I'm the one that told you. It's actually the second page of the book.
That's it, Pastor Esmond.
Oh.
Sorry.
Well, men and women are the exact same, so whatever.
Yeah, I have that. Here we go.
Case for Patriarchy, page 4. Gender dysphoria, in its original iteration, is feminism. This is dysphoria. They want women and men to be placed at the same level. Utter nonsense. We'll take a question in just a second. I just want to finish this. Gomez described the involvement of women in the Synod as a new modus vivendi for the Church, a way of life for forever journeying together with a permanent and ongoing dialogue. Now, women getting the vote at the Synod will do what women getting the vote at the ballot box in America has done. Ensure secula seculorum, into perpetuity, for time immemorial, going forward chronologically, the liberal, insane, stupid things happen, right? Just as it's been demonstrated amply. We would have had none of the liberal policies of the 20th century, none of the liberal presidents of the 20th century if women didn't have the vote. You give women the vote, and the Sanctocolum Mafia knows that they will be able to accomplish their goal. Women vote liberally. The women are not meant to vote. Women vote for wrong things, by and large, by the law of averages. Women especially vote on the issue of man-women things. They vote for dysphoria. Now, a lot of the women in this audience would actually, ironically, vote for case for patriarchy type things, sensible things. Women would use their vote to say, take away our vote. Women might use their vote to say, no, we should be at home. We shouldn't be advising cardinals. It's a way of life for forever journeying together with a permanent and ongoing dialogue. That's the role of women in the Synod, according to Gomez. But they keep saying, so we're talking about it a lot. but it's not dominating the discussion. Lepori said it, the head of the Cistercian order, who I read you his answer to Diane Montaigne. He shared that while the Synod is discussing the possibility of female deacons, the topic is not dominating the discussion. We have no way to falsify that, and they know it. That's why Francis has set up a turkey shoot for himself. He's triangulated the precise conditions where we can't say BS, even though we know it's BS. The Cistercian, I'll repeat because this article repeats it, said that the focus of this table, Table 6, has been on the deeper theme of how the church can recognize better the baptismal dignity of women. All right, should we get to that question?
Yes, there's a question, super chat question from Brad Price. He asks, do we even need the current male diaconate? Get rid of this and the female deacon question is a non-issue.
I mean, I don't disagree, but it's running from a fight, man. What I mean, I don't think you probably want to run from the fight either. You probably agree with me. Just tell him no. But it's not like there are women banging down Pope Francis's door and he's just giving in to their pressures like Pontius Pilate. No.
Women need to be told no more. Women need to be told no and be like, yeah, men can do something you're not allowed to do.
Absolutely. That's the central question in the world. Nolan Knows just had one of the most important interviews of the year on his channel, my friend Will Noland. And that's what he and the really one of the leaders in the male rights movement came to. It's really good to tell women no, shortly, clearly, and loudly. No, you're not me. You don't get to do. Same thing. It's important. People will say, if I use body, but not bad, awful, never taking the Lord's name in vain. But if you say an impolite word in front of your kids, people will say, I never hear your kids cuss. Yeah. They can't. I can drink alcohol too. They can't. I can drive a car too. If they're younger than 16, they can't. They can hear me say shit. They can't do it. People are all like, your kids are so well behaved. Yeah, this is adult talk, or this is male talk, or whatever the category is. I don't model the kind of behavior that is appropriate for an 8-year-old girl by myself doing it. I just say, this is what I can do. They take incredibly well to it. If your kids see you operating a vehicle, your 5-year-old, does he think he can operate the vehicle? You just say, no, I'm a 16-plus-year-old person. It's probably, women drivers. But they might say that to their mom. The mom's like, well, legally, I'm allowed to drive.
What's funny is that a child gets that concept, but
women don't.
A lot of women don't. They just see a man doing something across the board, whether professionally or academically or anything, and they're like, oh, well, if he's doing that, I can do it better. A small child understands that they can't do everything they see somebody else do.
Yeah, it's one of the ways that women have been debased. Absolutely debased by people like Jepsen, Spuler, and Pope Francis, and this Cistercian, who think that they're going to treat women better than Jesus treated them. It's unreal, man. So, what was the question now?
Oh, he was just asking, Brad was just asking if we should just get rid of the male diaconate.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, I mean, Brad, do you see why I don't like that? I don't like that approach. You're running around to avoid a fight, to avoid saying no. I mean, it's fine for women to say, hey, can I vote? Can I pretend to be a leader? Can I run the household for a while? Can I put on your pants and your tie and talk in a deep voice? Like, remember when Hillary Clinton kept doing that 2 election cycles ago? It was super cringe. And act like a man and go around and pretend I'm tough and like I have any muscle mass at all and get in fights and pretend my hips aren't structured away from running, or that I'm fast, strong, jump fast. No, you can't. You're not good at any of that. And you can't do any of it even half adequately because you're a woman. Same as I can't have a baby because I'm a man. Just say no. Next question. That's better.
I think Brad's agreeing with you in chat.
I figured you
We've talked about this a lot, even on the voting question. I'm done voting. I give it up willingly. If our household, your vote will be the only one that stands. There's no reason for me to be voting.
People are probably surprised that you've ever voted.
Yeah, no, probably.
It's not very
You
Steph-like.
just tell me, hey, this is what you're voting for, and I'm like, cool, I'll vote for that.
Yeah. I mean, also, yeah, I don't know, guys. They're definitely doing it. I'm really curious. I'm really, really curious what means they're going to use. I'm curious how close it's going to be to my guess is something like the Amazonian Rite. Episcopal hands on the head of the deacon male, like elbows on the wife nearby, and everyone's like, that's the equivalent of a footnote or an attachment. That's the kind of mendacity this wicked, wicked man Francis is made of. That's why he was nearly Pope in 2005. That's why he was successfully Pope in the ouster of Benedict in 2013. That's why. Get over it. It's a done deal. Making a prediction's one thing. We have now, it's in the rearview mirror. We now have the luxury of history. This is what they did at the 2014-2015 synods. And so all I'm really guessing is what's going to be the footnote. Remember how we say this, how I say it about beer bug? Well, beer bug was a bug in 2019-2020. But beer bug in 21 was the jibbity jab. In 22, it was, that blue yellow flag. In 23, it seems to be, blue and white kind of flag. That's just, they're all beer bug. Remember? Like Jim Gaffigan says, well, I eat McDonald's, you guys laugh at me. But you have your McDonald's too. Maybe you watch Britney Spears. He said, it's all McDonald's. So this is all beer bug. It's all beer bug. And this is all, and all of what Francis is doing is a giant footnote in chapter 8 of the longest papal document in history, Amoris Laetitia. It's all just bullshit. The most egregious lies you've ever heard. Oh, we're not fixated on the yes/no answer. We're the shot clock. We're way above the game. The yes or no, we even forget. We're just having these super deep philosophical convos at table 6, bros, about women and men. We're realizing stuff no one's ever realized. It's not about a penis or whatever. It's not about, do women have Adam's apples? I don't even know. Yes, no, I forget. It's really about deep stuff. And it'll come out in the wash whether or not women get to be some sort of deacon. They will.
What does Adam Sandler say in Wedding Singer? He's like, and the freaks at table 6.
Yeah, the freaks at, I think it's table 5 in that. That'd be hilarious. I tell you, man. Holy cow. What a crazy time to be a Roman Catholic or a Christian at all. Because this stuff is everywhere. It's everywhere. The first woman to preside over a synod of bishops described the experience of sitting with Pope Francis at the head table as a grift and a grace. She says this is a gift and a grace. I nearly read it the wrong way. I'll tell you right now. I'm just looking to see if I missed anything. This synod delegate, retweeted by this goofy loser, Rich Reho. Synod delegate says Paul welcomed by a liturgy outside the ritual among women in the open air. See, they're just making stuff up about St. Paul. That he was welcomed by a liturgy outside the ritual among women in the open air.
Or that he just didn't write all the things.
He didn't even write
Yeah.
the first letter to Timothy.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow, man. I'll read something Father V posted yesterday. It was a quote by Henry Cardinal Manning. from the present crisis of the Holy See. This is in 1861, around the time Garibaldi was at the point of a sword forcing Pio IX's Vatican troops to be beaten back, unifying Italy. And the next year, Lincoln would reach out to Garibaldi. Hey, what you just did to the Holy Pope, I want to do to America. Will you do that for me? So around that time, 1861, this is what Henry Cardinal Manning wrote. The apostasy of the city of Rome and its destruction by Antichrist may be thoughts very new to many Catholics, many of you, parish orphans and retrogrades. But I think it well to recite the text of theologians of greatest repute. First, Malvenda, who writes expressly on the subject, states as the opinion of Ribera, Gaspar, Milas, Villegas, Suarez, Bellarmine, and Bogius that Rome shall apostatize from the faith and return to its ancient paganism. Then the church shall be scattered, driven into the wilderness, and shall be for a time, as it was in the beginning, invisible, hidden in catacombs, in dens, in mountains, in lurking places. For a time it shall be swept, as it were, from the face of the earth. Such is the universal testimony of the fathers of the early church. So, here's what I say to you all, parish orphans and retrogrades. This is not an embarrassment to us, unless you choose to receive it that way. The early fathers of the church said, look, this will happen in Rome. Lots of prophecies said it would happen in this number 266th pontificate, if you believe that stuff. Talking about St. Malachi, number 266. There's only slots for 265 popes at the Vatican when you look at the pictures around there. That kind of stuff gets pretty superficial. But what's not superficial is the unanimity of the early patristics saying this would happen in Rome, that it would apostatize. They're not just talking about the secular leaders, that we would have separation of church and state in Rome or something like that. No, the religious leaders would apostatize. That doesn't run foul of Jesus saying that the gates of hell shall not prevail. Do you get it? You've heard that so much by Pope-splainers that, well, Jesus said the gates of hell shall not prevail against the church. Well, that means in the end. That doesn't mean that for a time you can't have apostasy in Rome. In fact, if you take seriously the words of Henry Cardinal Manning, the patristics unanimously, with one voice, said it will happen in Rome. And Cardinal Manning wasn't saying that that means the church is wrong. The papal positivists, the papal maximalists, the Pope-splainers, and then our enemies, in like, I guess, the liberal illuminist press or whatever, they say that if there's a time when what every Catholic in 300, 400, 500 AD knew would happen, every knowledgeable doctor of the church, at least those first 8 doctors, he says it's unanimous. They all knew what would happen. Oh, that proves Catholicism is false. It doesn't. It doesn't. Somehow, if you compare the Venn diagrams of apostasy of the city of Rome, direct quote from Manning, and gates of hell prevailing against the church, they're not the exact same Venn. There's overlap, there's union, but there's intersect, there's non-intersect. They're not the same thing. You've been told by Pope-splainers that they are. Well, if you say anything, I mean, then you're just, and what causes dread in your bosom is the fact that you can either believe the Pope-splainers or your own lying eyes and ears. Well, Tim just told me that, and I double checked it, and it's true, that we've had communion for the divorced and civilly remarried in the church in the Acta Apostolicae Sedis for over 7 years now, as of September. I was just ignoring this, but is that true? That's a material heresy instantiated. So the Pope-splainers just ignore it or say, no, that's not going to happen. And you're like, it already did happen. What are you talking about? These people make me upset. The Pope's blaming Catholics. No, it happened. And then so you guys just jump to the conclusion, oh, well, if they're lying about it, it must be because they're worried this makes the church false. It doesn't. Listen to what Cardinal Manning said in full. The apostasy of the city of Rome, sometime after 1861, he meant, and its destruction by Antichrist may be thoughts very new to many Catholics. Now, destruction, I don't know what he means there. How do you square that with gates of hell shall not prevail? But the point is, it's comforting because he says that things can get really shitty and it's still the church. It will just go back into the mustard seed. It'll go back into the folds of the earth, the catacombs, hidden, invisible, as it was in the beginning, in dens and mountains and lurking places. For a time it shall be swept, as it were, means it's just a figure of speech, from the face of the earth. Okay. So, gates of hell not prevailing does not mean what the enemies of the church or the Pope-splaining positivists say it meant. Because this is a Roman Catholic man citing Roman Catholics from the beginning. Don't be scandalized by the fact that the apostasy in Rome began on top. Francis makes it most undeniable. I'm not sure it began with him on top. Any of the post-conciliar popes have a contender spot for beginning this thing, the apostasy from on top. It's not arguable anymore. It is not debatable. Now, how it's going to play out, how it can be theologically and ecclesiologically justified ex post, that's very debatable. How will this play with all of these promises Jesus gave us? But I'll tell you another one. Jesus also said, when the Son of Man returns, will he find any faith on earth? So that's another one right there. There's like, I'll return just as I promised. The church is the church, just as we've always said it is. And I don't expect to find much faith, mustard seed faith, in the lurking places, as it was in the beginning, to quote Cardinal Manning. So stay strong. They're going to do something with this. I'm not going to stop being Catholic because of it. That's why I just read you Cardinal Manning. They might do something really wacky with the James Martin S.J., the naughty pets out there. They might do something with the teaching with all the naughty pets. James Martin and all his furry little friends might get, they're human in this case. It's too close to a Richard Gere joke. But I meant all of the naughty pets in the Jesbians, they may be indulged in some sort of post-synodal apostolic exhortations, footnote or attachment. I don't know what it'll be, or some new thing I haven't even thought of yet that's sneaky, but eventually certain with the passage of time. Like that footnote in chapter 8 of Amoris Laetitia. Like that attachment to the final document of Carita Amazonia, the post-synodal apostolic exhortation in late 2019. I guess we don't get a post-synodal apostolic exhortation from this one, but we will get a final document. Hang tough. I was writing in DMs to a fan of the show that's going through a very hard time. I've been praying. Said, hang tough. This is one of those expressions. It's stupid. It's simple. It's sloganeering, as Father Abbott would say, but some sloganeering is very helpful and deep and profound. Hang tough is a 2-word expression that I've always loved. At the toughest times with Abby's health, coming home from Rome, if someone would say that kind of boomerish expression to me, it would always psych me up, would get me. You don't say that to someone just like when they're a little exhausted. You say that to someone when they're at their wit's end with physical exhaustion, pain, exhaustion, emotional, spiritual, terror type exhaustion. Only break it out for those occasions. Hang tough means do whatever you can to get through this half a day. And then once you get through this half a day, until 3 p.m. with a little bit of a plum, get through the next half of the day from 3 p.m. till you go to bed. And then when you wake up, get through tomorrow's first half of the day with a bit of a plum, and the next. In Europe, they say your horizons expand and contract based on how hard your life is at the moment. Your horizons really contract during hard times. You're just trying to get through that half of the day. That's where we are as the church, getting through the synod, and we will get through. And it's above my pay grade to know exactly what's what, but I do know we'll get through it, and I do know that it can get pretty bad before it gets better. I'm not bringing you the Pope's splainer. Well, it'll be perfectly fine because of this rangy, highly interpretable one line of scripture. The gates of hell won't prevail. I know Jesus will come back and he'll find barely any faith. But come back he will. Find faith he will. Let it be us. Parish orphans and retrogrades. Deus Volt. God bless you all.